Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, sorry for the delay. Just a few administrative things to sort out. Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the planning meeting of Melton Borough Council. I'm Councillor Chris Evans, the Chair of Planning, and I'll be chairing this meeting. First of all, I've got to go through the usual housekeeping. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the side of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist anyone who needs any assistance. Please put your phone to silent, please, now. The meeting will be live through YouTube this evening. Members speaking, they will do so by raising your hand if you wish to speak and speak directly to the microphone in front of you. Remember to turn it off, unlike I do sometimes, once you have finished. Members voting will be by raised hand. Right, I'll now introduce you to those who are present. To my right, I'll just check that they're actually where they should be, is Ian Atherton in blue, Siggy Atherton, Mike Brown, Margaret Glancy, and Marilyn Gordon. To my left is Councillor Tim Webster at the head of the table, Lee Higgins, Elaine Holmes, James Mason, and Alan Thwaites. We have a team of officers also are present. To my left is the Assistant Director for Governance and Democracy, Clive Tobin. To my right is the Planning Development Manager, Louise Parker. Then we have further along the Planning Development Team Leader, Louise Newcomb. And then we also have another Planning Development Team Leader, Amy Smith. So we also have at the bottom left, or my left, your right, if you're at the bottom there, we have Democratic Services who are presenting us, helping us with the technology and taking the minutes. And they are Helen Ainge and Sarah Evans, another Evans. Okay, thank you. First of all, on the agenda, is there any apologies for absence, please? Do we have any apologies for absence from anybody? We're all here, so no apologies. Right, we'll now move on to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of June 2026. First of all, is there anybody who has any? Councillor Gordon, I can rely on you.
Yeah, it's on North Lodge, Longcliffe Hill, Old Dolby, which is PL5. And I'll just go down a minute. Where are we? Here we are. Yeah, it's to do with the Councillor Butcher requested a vote for the motion to be recorded. It hasn't actually been recorded. She was for the refusal of this application. She was for the refusal, the motion of the committee, and it hasn't been put down. So I thought I'd just bring that up. I've had a word with Sharon, Sharon Butcher, and she agrees. Yeah, so it's been confirmed. Yeah.
You're right, we will alter it to make it clear what Sharon Butcher's vote on that was. So it'll be recorded as that. Okay, thank you. I accept that. Any other?
Yes, my on page 9 of the minutes, about 2/3 of the way down, is a minute. Councillor Mason requested it be recorded that he disagreed on using the 45-degree guidance as material consideration on sunlight affecting neighbourhood properties. I never said that. Now, I can understand the confusion around that. That came out of a debate and a question that I posed to a planning officer regarding the 45-degree rule, on whether it was a rule, and the context was around the emphasis that it was placed in the planning report that it was a rule, and I asked him whether it's a rule of thumb, and it is a rule of thumb. I think you said, Chair, that it's law, and I objected to that, and I said I wanted that recording, and at that point, my good friend, the legal officer, stepped in, calmed the situation down, and said, no, it's not law, but your point is taken. The upshot of that is, I think that minute could be removed because I don't think it adds anything to the minutes at all. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Anything else? Oh, another one. Councillor Ainsworth.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple of small points. On PL3, at the end it says Councillor Thwaites advised that we would be speaking on this application, therefore would leave the meeting for this item. It's leave the committee, not the meeting. I just don't want to mislead anybody on that one. And on page 5, is the beginning of the paragraph. During the debate, the following points were made. On the third bullet point, there was no issue with the redevelopment of the farmhouse, but there was uncertainty. I think that was, it says that there was uncertainty as to whether the neighbourhood plan should allow a new house. I think it was a discussion rather than an uncertainty.
Yep, change that. Yeah, if you want that changed, then obviously it's not a big issue. Has anybody got a problem with any of these changes? Nope, so they're all duly noted. Could I therefore have a proposer for the minutes, please? Okay, thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. And we vote, please, those in favour of the minutes as altered accordingly. I don't think, what was there? No. Okay, thank you. Abstention? Yep, one abstention, so it's all in favour and one abstention. Right, thank you. So that's that done with. Now we go to number 3. Is there any declarations of interest that members wish to declare at this point considered at the meeting? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's simply that I'm a ward member for Egerton, and the only application for determination tonight is in Egerton. Therefore, I will be taking a seat in the public gallery for questions, then leaving the chamber during the debate.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair. And as I discussed with the monitoring officer just before the meeting started, and thank you for that time, I've had to take external advice. And before this item is considered, I've attempted to raise my concerns regarding this application at the member briefing and elsewhere in this council. However, I remain deeply concerned by what I perceive to be an executive involvement in matters that should be properly determined independently by the planning committee. A cabinet member has now made representations which I'm not going to go into, but that is there before you. I fully appreciate that this planning committee cannot determine those wider issues that member has raised, nor am I asking it to do so either. However, I believe it's important that the public understand why I cannot participate in this debate. Experience has shown that expressing views on matters involving individuals connected with a wider history has led to false narratives, personal attacks and commentary being directed at myself and increasingly members of my family. And I am not simply prepared to expose my family to another wave of abuse because I have fulfilled my role as a councillor. Whilst I have concerns regarding the planning merits of this application, which I have raised at the member briefing, I cannot in good conscience place my family in that position. Accordingly, I'm going to withdraw from this matter. And it is in relation to that the sustained campaign of online abuse and false allegations, which has resulted in criminal convictions, has had a profound impact on me and my family. There are members of the cabinet that were on those pages at the time, and that is why I'm going to withdraw. And thank you for listening, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Higgins, I'm very sorry to hear that you feel like that. Obviously, I can assure members of the public and anybody who's watching this, I can assure you there will be no interference in this from members of the executive. As far as we're concerned, we are members of the committee and we take our role very seriously. I know all of you do, and therefore I'm just making clear that as far as I'm concerned as a chair, and I know the officers and everybody, this is for us to decide in this debate, and we will not have a view before we get to that stage. Thank you. So as long as we can move on, please. And obviously we record that Councillor Higgins has now left the meeting. So we have scheduled applications. We only have one application tonight, which is 26 0010 2/full, which is at 34 Asfordby Road, Melton Mowbray. And we will now have a presentation from Louise Newcomb as to this application. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members and members of the public. Next slide, please. This is a site location plan showing the property, and it's on the corner of Asfordby Road and Cottesmore Avenue. Next slide, please. These are the aerial views of the site. Members may be familiar, but just for clarification, the aerial view on the left-hand side shows the site itself in relation to Melton Mowbray in the town centre. And then on the right-hand side, a closer in view of the location of the site on the corner of Cottesmore Avenue and Asfordby Road. Thank you. Next slide. This is a proposed site and car parking plan showing the 4 car parking spaces, and also indicating bike racks, which we'll come on to in the discussion. Next slide, please. These are the proposed floor plans for the property, showing 10 bedrooms proposed, and there are 2 kitchens on the ground floor on the left-hand side there. Thank you. And these are photographs of the site. These were taken this week on Tuesday. And as you can see here, these are the views from the opposite side of Asfordby Road, showing you can just make out the parking restrictions along Cottesmore Avenue themselves. You can see the bays for the permit parking areas, and also the double yellow lines along Asfordby Road itself. Thank you. Further, more detailed photographs of the front elevation of the property and the side elevation. So that photograph on the right is taken from the opposite side on Cottesmore Avenue. Thank you. And the left-hand side photograph there shows the side elevation of the property and the access point there off of Cottesmore Avenue. And on the right-hand side, indicating looking towards Asfordby Road with the parking areas along the Cottesmore Avenue itself. Thank you. And again here, more detail of the side and rear elevations of the property itself, and then the access point and the parking area and rear area of the site. Thank you very much. So the room sizes have been discussed within the officer report at 9.10.3, and a correction is required to be alerted to members here. Please note that the space standards quoted do not reflect the HMO Regulations 2018, which sets the following minimum floor areas for rooms. So rooms for 1 person aged 10 or over has a minimum size of 6.51 square metres. For 2 persons, that's 10.22 square metres. And for those under 10 years old, it's 4.64 square metres. All proposed rooms comply with these minimum floor areas. Next slide, please. And highways matters and concerns that have been raised. We include here on the slide the extract from the Leicestershire Highway Design Guide. And the table shown on the slide there sets out the council's minimum parking standards for developments of residential dwellings. And you can see there that for HMO, in the bottom row there, sui generis, HMO with more than 6 residents, it does state there 1 per resident for minimum parking spaces. However, and as set out in the officer report, the local highway authority concludes that due to the sustainable location of the site and accessibility, the existing parking restrictions around the site, the provision of cycle parking, and the existing lawful use of the site with an existing parking shortfall, they have no highway safety concerns, and the development would not result in an unacceptable or severe impact on the highway network. Next slide, please. Waste storage and collection. The agent has confirmed that there will be 3 general waste bins and 3 recycling bins to be provided. And officers recommend an additional planning condition for members to consider to secure the details of the waste storage area prior to occupation of the development. The wording is set out there and I'll read it out for avoidance of doubt. Prior to occupation of the development hereby approved, a scheme for provision of waste storage shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The scheme shall be implemented in full accordance with the approved details and retained as such thereafter. And the reason for that is to provide adequate waste storage in the interests of residential and visual amenity. Next slide, please. So the current HMO position, there are currently 17 licensed HMOs within the Melton town area. For data protection and operational reasons, individual property locations are not being presented. The council, though, does not have an Article 4 direction controlling the change from a dwelling house, which is a C3 use class, to a small HMO, and that's a C4 use class. Adopted HMO concentration thresholds within planning policy. Again, the council does not have those. And the council does not have a designated areas where additional HMOs are restricted through planning policy. Consequently, there is no adopted planning policy basis to refuse an application solely on the grounds of HMO concentration or cumulative impact. And the key message here is, whilst concerns regarding cumulative impact are recognised, the application must be determined on its individual planning merits and against the council's adopted planning policy framework. Next slide, please. The recommendation from officers is to approve the application subject to the conditions as set out in section 11 of the committee report and the additional condition to secure the waste storage scheme. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the officer regards that report, please? Oh, there we go. Councillor Ian Atherton.
Sorry, just a couple of things. Can you put up the slide again showing the minimum floor space? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So based on minimum floor spaces, then this property would be capable of holding 16 people, adults. But am I right in thinking, Louise, that occupation levels are a licensing function, not a planning function?
That's correct. This application has been submitted for 10 bedrooms rather than a number of people.
Thank you.
Could I just state, because I know we've had this just recently talked about, and I know that if this committee wants to, they can put a planning restriction on this HMO to the number of residents that are in it. That is a planning law that we can enforce. So in other words, if you wanted as a committee, for instance, to say no more than 10 residents, that can be written, and I'm looking to my right with Louise Parker, that can be written in as a condition if this application were to be approved.
Thank you, Chair. Second point that I had then is relation to the number of licensed HMOs, and it's just a query on the number. You stated we've got 17. In briefings I've had in relation to my cabinet role, I've been told we've only got one licensed HMO, which is correct. And I appreciate that, again, that's not a planning concern.
No, the information that was confirmed to us yesterday and today from our environmental health colleagues are that there are 17 in the Melton area.
Obviously, could I just have confirmation here, Louise, just so that committee are educated on this? Obviously, once it's up to 4, it doesn't have to be registered, as I understand it. So there can be those you wouldn't, that are not a part of the 17. The 17 are for registered HMOs, which are. Yeah, that's okay. So, yes, it is. But what I'm saying is the ones that are registered with our licensing team are ones that are for residents of 5+, as I understand it. Okay. Obviously, we have no control of 2, 3 HMOs residents.
So, just following on from Ian's point, and apologies, but can we go back to the floor plan? I mean, we did ask in briefing to see if there was a more detailed drawing of the building, because if all we've got is the figures that are in that outline, keep going. It's the one with the floor plan. Yeah, that one. That's the one. Yeah. For bedroom, it was 6 and 9. That was it. We've just got a figure saying 8.5 or square meters. We haven't actually got the actual dimensions. So have we confirmed that, especially with bedroom 9, where the toilet or the bathroom, sorry, the ensuite bathroom, which on my guess is a bathroom has got to be at least 2 square meters to be usable. Is that within the 8.5, or is it with that? Because the drawing doesn't actually show it.
Okay, presumably you can cover that, but I would thought if you really want a concern about the size and the minimum, which is 6.5, we could put in a condition that, but that will be checked for licensing anyhow, I'm absolutely certain.
Thank you. Yes, Chair. I have been liaising with the agent on this today. They weren't able to provide a dimension drawing with the proposed floor plan layout. However, the plan is to scale, and I have been beavering away in the background measuring off on our system, and I'm content that these measurements are to form. They don't include the ensuite bathroom measurements. And just for clarity, if you look there on the right hand side for bedroom 6, the ensuite that serves that room with what looks like quite a small shower, well, it measures off about 600 mil, and from my calculations and having a look on what's the smallest shower unit you can purchase, that is the smallest, but you can get a shower at that size. I think we have all experienced very tiny shower cubicles, so I am content that they are the sizes that are correct true to the room sizes, and as Councillor Evans has confirmed, they are above the minimum HMO licensing sizes.
Okay, I'm sure we'll come back to it. Sorry if I can come back
we have
to it.
another one
and
now.
then sort of say, but if you
Oh,
actually look,
yep.
if you actually look at bedroom 6 and the size of it there, it looks very similar to what bedroom 9 is in its entirety. But it's bedroom 9 has actually got a bathroom in it. But we'll come back to that.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe Councillor Mason was next. Oh, what? Okay, I'll take ladies first. Councillor Elaine Holmes.
No, don't worry. Can I have it in feet and inches, please? I'm old-fashioned. But the other thing is, I have been to look at the Ringwood, which is across the road. They're identical size. They were built a long time ago. I know who built them, a relative of my ex-husband, and all that area was. And so I know the size of the NFU offices, which is Ringwood, and I cannot see how it can get in there. But then, I mean, I don't know. I'd just like to know feet and inches, please.
Going to feet and inches.
Well,
we will
other
check
people
these
that
measurements.
might be listening and
Yep.
hearing this, they'd probably like to know as well, because I'm a bit staggered by the tiny
Yep.
area. you know.
Councillor Holmes, we can come back to that in the
Thank
debate.
you.
Obviously, this is a question for at the moment, just for the officers on the presentation. Right, Councillor Mason next.
Thank you, Chair. Surprisingly, I've been through the detail of this, and I agree that they do conform. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you very much. However, if I can, and there's always a however with me, if I could just ask, does this council have their own guidance on the space standards that should be adopted within the within HMOs? I can see where the bedroom size have come from, but when I look across the piece, and this may well be a question for debate, when I look across the piece, there are other authorities that always have their own standards, particularly in and around Leicester and Leicestershire. I just wondered whether we have them, because if we haven't got them, then I'm afraid we need to have a debate
Yeah.
on that principle.
I've been
So-
doing research like you have, and we do not have, but there are national guidance on that, which are even for kitchens and all the rest of it, there is national guidance on that.
I'm well aware of that, Chair.
So,
as
But we
you
don't
can
have
imagine.
anything that,
And not
take
only
it
that,
further.
I'm also very, very keen on the interdependencies between kitchens, communal areas and dining rooms,
okay,
because one affects the other and also affects the bedroom. So, but I'll come on to that during
okay,
the
if we
debate.
could
Thank
save
you.
that for later.
Chair, if it assists, as referred to in the officer's presentation, those sizes come from legislation. So it's not guidance, and that's mandatory. So it's in the Housing Act 2004, and it says that a licence issued under the Act must have those conditions. So it expressly says must have those conditions. So it's not less than those sizes. So we can't go beyond that. We can talk about desirable things, but that is a housing licensing matter anyway. So obviously we can't go into that territory as a planning committee.
That wasn't the question I asked. The question I asked is, do we have our own guidance? Now, the guidance should cover bathrooms, showers, kitchens, communal areas, and then go on to look at the independence between the two. Because if there's no communal areas, then the bedrooms have to be bigger to allow more circulation space. And that's where I'm coming from. And that is national guidance. So I do take your point. However, I've looked at national guidance on that basis. Thank you.
Okay, if we can leave that for later, but I know that we don't have anything more specific than national guidance.
But if you're talking about that as being a housing licensing function, then obviously that's not for this committee. So that's something they'd have to look at, because even if this committee were minded to grant this application, if it didn't meet the relevant standards from a housing licensing perspective, they still couldn't operate as such. So obviously that's a test that they can consider, but planning can't.
Give you one more chance.
Yeah, well, I think I should be allowed as many chances as I want.
No,
The issue is that in this paper we have C2 to consider, and that is the quality of housing and the quality of accommodation. And sure, that depends on space standards. Now, if we're to consider C2 in this paper, and it is in this paper, then the space standards must be considered.
I absolutely respect what you're saying, Councillor Mason. If you could hold that back until we get into the debate, that would be useful. Okay, is everybody? Oh, one more, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, mine's a simpler one. For 10 people, would 3 waste bins and 3 recycling bins be enough?
I'll pass this on to Louise.
Thank you, Chair. The agent has confirmed to me that that is a similar provision for another site that is a 10-bedroom HMO. That's been acceptable. The condition is, the wording of the condition suggested sets out a scheme, so that can be for more provision, and we have advised the agent to ensure that they are complying with the requirements of the Melton Borough Council's waste guidance and provision. So it would be strongly suggested to the agent to liaise with the waste team prior to securing those details. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. That will be in the conditions, and we've gone through that. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to the officers? Yep, Councillor.
Thank you. And I've got a couple of questions. One was, we haven't seen that before, but it was the parking layout, which seems, I was slightly surprised in the fact that it seems to leave a space in front of the cars. Is that for a particular reason? My concern is that if the parking is that close to the entrance, there is no turning space. So any cars that go into it will have to reverse out of it or reverse into it,
Yeah,
which causes a high speed.
I know where you're coming. If you could,
Yeah, sorry, that's the one.
that,
Yeah.
obviously the officer can't answer that at the moment, as we're just looking for clarification at the moment.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you've got as a question? Councillor?
It was a general one, which is, I understand the reasons for not being able to say where the other HMOs are, and to say there's 17 in town is fine. But if we're trying to make a judgment on whether they are, forget what the proper word is, but whether they're clustered. I mean, because if all 17 of those are on Asselby Road, it's different to them being spread all the way around the borough. So we do need to have some sort of idea of how many are within. I've seen one recently about a children's home, 600 yards or 600 meters of the building. You don't have to know exactly where they are, but whether that's.
Could I put you on to Louise Parker here, because she has firm views on this. If we had a section 4, as I understand it, which many places do have, then we would be able to take that into account. Unfortunately, in Melton Mowbray at the moment, we do not have a section 4 enforcement, but that could be looked at, but not by a planning committee, clearly. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure there's anything more that I can add to what you've already said and what was in the presentation. So we've reviewed the policy position. We don't have an Article 4 direction controlling changes to HMOs. We don't have an adopted HMO supplementary planning document. We don't have concentration thresholds or designated areas where additional HMOs are restricted. So at the minute, we're bound by the policies that we have in the local plan.
But don't we as a committee have a responsibility about the amenity of the residents?
Yeah. Okay. I know where you're going. Could we just
so I just want to know what the guidance is before we get into debate.
We can go through that in the debate if you could just hold that back as a thought. That would be brilliant. Anything else from any councillors? Just questioning on the presentation and the facts. Right. Okay. So just before we go any further, and obviously we're having people speaking, I just want to make clear, because obviously people are aware HMOs can cause issues. I just want to remind members, just be that the concerns relating to the identity, background or personal characteristics of potential future occupiers are not a material planning consideration and therefore cannot be afforded weight in the determination of planning application. So if anybody in this committee feels they're going down there, I'm afraid I will stop that discussion, because that is not a material consideration for us to debate in this chamber. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to the first the first person who's going to, the only person now, sorry, who's going to speak, which is Councillor Pip. Oh, no, are you willing to come forward now and give your 3-minute presentation now? Got 3 minutes now. Yes, 3 minutes, because Mike's withdrawn. Yep, I know. I'm just waiting for him to sit down. Councillor Allnutt, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I do not object to the reference property being converted back to residential, or the principle of HMOs of the right size, location and use, taking into account site-specific conditions. If the committee is minded to approve the application, I ask for an additional condition requiring a separate retrospective application in accordance with the description in paragraph 9.5 of the report. In fact, I ask the committee to defer determination tonight in order to establish some facts. The need for HMOs in particular, and how much of the need is represented by the waiting list for council accommodation. Also, the report suggests that the number of HMOs in the area is not excessive without defining the area or offering any statistics. And may I say, Chair, that following the officer's presentation and the lack of clarity in some of the information, I think that's an added reason to defer so that members and the public can absorb the data that's being presented. Now, if the committee is minded to make a determination this evening for a 10-unit HMO with up to 21 occupants, as noted in the report, I request refusal, because the proposed conditions do not overcome the grounds for refusal. The specific need and number for HMOs have not been established and that insufficient account of site-specific conditions has been made. There is loss of amenity to existing neighbouring residents, the impact in particular on parking in the area, which will not be offset by the proposed 4-line parking spaces and a covered cycle rack. Paragraph 9.10.2 of the report is incorrect to state that the property is within a largely residential area. This overstates the situation. It is at the edge of a residential area facing onto a main road and a plethora of non-residential buildings, greater both numerically and in mass. The paragraph acknowledges that the proposal has a concentration of occupancy, but then dismisses this impact on the amenity of neighbouring properties to the north, which, quote, would be considered acceptable. The area to the north, Cottesmore Avenue, etc., is residential and the impact is not acceptable. Car parking is by permit, strictly enforced and not much available. The comments by the Highway Authority are narrow, correct for Asperby Road, but incorrect for Cottesmore Avenue, where the reference property is clearly part of the street scene. Once again, the Highway Authority is doing half a job. The report acknowledges that the normal Highway Authority standards for on-site car parking has been disapplied.
You're running close to time.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
We're running out of time, Pip.
But sui generis, this the car parking and cycling arrangements cannot be enforced by this committee, and in fact, the runners of the owners of the site will not be able to do so either.
Could you wind up, please, Pip?
Okay, last point then. The amenity for potential new residents. Paragraph 924 of the report and the local plan policy C9 references healthy homes. This includes homes with decent space, internal and external, and safe from overheating. I asked the committee to consider whether or not the report provides any facts to evidence that this particular application can support these requirements. Please consider if a small building with 21 residents would have their amenity affected,
Okay,
especially in the normal weather
up.
patterns
Thank
that we
you.
have now. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you, Pip. Right.
Any
Councillor-
questions? I can take questions, can't I? Thank you.
Councillors of the committee, is there anybody who's got any questions for Councillor Allnutt? Yes. Oh,
I can ask a question.
Councillor, of course you can, Elaine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting that property, because of course it's a one-way system, isn't it? It is a one-way system round there, and you mentioned the parking. If it's a multi people property.
Elaine, could we have a question to the?
Yeah, so I'm asking you if you have thought about the way that cars are coming out and seen the cars that are already parked along there.
I have thought about it, and the facts on the ground are that it's quite congested already. There's a very small allocation of parking for the existing residents in the area, and I think given the fact that there is no real control over the number of cars that the residents will have, this could be a safety problem, but also a parking problem, because as has been pointed out already, the actual area that's allocated for parking on the plan is very difficult to manoeuvre, particularly if you've got a lot of rubbish bins there.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to ask a question of Councillor Allnutt?
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions, please, Councillor Allnutt, and both relate to current and past use of the property, and indeed of one of the neighbouring properties. I understand that the property in question was previously a business unit with 6 allocated parking spaces inside what would have been a back garden at one stage, I assume. Are you aware of any parking issues through that business having 6 parking spaces? Similarly, directly opposite, but still on the avenue, is the vets. They've got a very small car park for staff and customers. Are you aware of any parking issues caused to residents by that? And do you expect this to be compounded by potentially 10 or more vehicles, despite there being 4 parking spaces provided in the plan?
You asked me if I'm aware of any problems. I walk past this every day, really. It's where I live. It's not just where I represent. And there have been a few altercations where people visiting the vet or visiting friends have parked where they shouldn't be, and a bit of aggravation with car parking wardens. In terms of amenity, it is a congested little area. But you're right, the place has been a business. It's been residential business, you know, it's been all sorts. And I really do not object at all to it becoming residential. It's just the occupancy that worries me, and also the quality for the residents. I mean, where can you hang your washing out?
Okay, Councillor Gordon.
It's just to clarify, actually, because you're talking about the parking. I just want to make sure that I've heard this right, because I want to make sure that there's no parking from those people at 34 Asfordby Road down on Cottesmore Avenue, because the address is 34 Asfordby Road. They're not entitled to park anywhere down Cottesmore Avenue, Fernley Avenue, or the other Quorn Avenue. I just wanted to clarify that with you. I wasn't sure what you was actually saying there, but they won't be allowed to do that because their address is on Asfordby Road.
So far as the residents' parking permits are concerned, I believe that is true. But as it's up to capacity anyway, it's very unlikely to, even if they were allowed, they would be unlikely to get in there.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Allnut. Any other questions at all, please? Nope, I think that's it. Okay, Councillor Allnut, thank you very much for your time.
Jem, can I just ask a point of clarification, because I'm new to this? Do I have to do I have to leave, or can I sit in the public gallery?
You can sit in the public galleries. Can he? I think you can. For the committee, though. Board members are not allowed to sit in attendance. Can we just? I'd be amazed if a ward member can't sit and just observe, because you could if you're on YouTube.
Mr. Chairman, is it just members of the committee? Yeah, I thought.
Sorry, you're not a member of the committee, so you may stay. And they're in the audience. Yeah. Thank you. No problem.
Can I a point of order as well? Sorry that and I'm sorry, Peyton. It's I prevent Councillor Brown having an early bath because he hasn't been a speaker. He doesn't need to leave either.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Chair, just can I just raise an observation? We seem to get we seem to get different interpretations of that clause every time we ask it.
Even though he's not speaking on it, or currently, okay, we've got clarification from my solicitor, and it says that Pip can stay. I'm afraid, Councillor Brown, you have to leave. Don't celebrate, please. Thank you. Okay. Right, now we've set clarification here. We're now moving to the stage where we can debate this, and therefore I'm looking for someone who wants to lead the debate onto acceptance or otherwise of this application. So I'm this is where I'm obviously asking for some kind of help, because obviously the officer's report is one for acceptance. So, but I need someone to speak on this matter and not sit on their hands, please. Thank you. Councillor.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, actually, the houses were all built by Joseph Wakely. Fernie, Cottesmore, all of them. Anyway, I'm glad that this house is going to be, hopefully, back to residential again. Very well built houses. But my concern is how big they are. I know at the moment it is extremely hot, warm, in fact, very warm. So to cram so many people into a house like that, we surely have to consider C9, for instance,
Yeah, I know where you're going.
health of people.
Councillor Holmes.
That's why I would like it in feet and inches, because lots of people, actually, I still think about that, but how would we get into these very little tiny showers? There's all sorts of things like this that concern me. And the parking, because I do know it is extremely difficult. I've gone round and tried to count all the houses in. I understand the council said that's on Ashfordby Road, but I can assure you they would be parking round, and all Fernie, Cottesmore, and Quorn Avenue. They now have cars. There weren't any cars in those days, and there's that little pet area where you can park. Quite frankly, I just don't see, and I really don't at this moment. I don't want to be for or against. Not against actually having it back to residential. My concern is how many, but I would like to leave it to other people as well, because, and I also concern about the health of people in
Okay,
the house. Thank you.
absolutely. It's a subjective matter, but when it comes to the statutory consultees, as you know, all of them without doubt has said this is acceptable. Now that is up to the committee whether they accept that or not, but obviously we are in a situation where we are limited with the reasons for not approval. So I need someone to lead this now, please, for me, and say where they're minded to go with this, because we have only three options, which is approve, reject, or defer. So I need someone to lead now and give me something on that. Councillor Atherton.
So I'm not sure we're yet at the stage of saying whether we approve, defer, or deny the application. But I am concerned that of a few things really. I don't believe there's a proven need for this HMO or any other HMO in the area. I don't believe that the development respects the character of the area. I do believe if it would have been, say, 2 flats, 1 upstairs, 1 downstairs, it would have been perfect. I'm disappointed in some ways that the applicant has not chosen to speak tonight, because there are questions about drainage. The property was built with a number of bedrooms and a number of people expected to be resident in it, and therefore a drainage capacity. We're now looking to put 10 bedrooms. Is it 10 bedrooms and 2 kitchens? All the bedrooms having ensuite. That's a massive amount of water potentially going down the drains at the same time, which gives me a problem with one of the policies that we have about drainage. The County Council's own highways department have policies about off-street parking. And it does say that there's a minimum number of parking spaces required for accommodation of this size. It does also say that you can reduce that as long as you have a robust justification. and I don't see a robust justification coming back from highways. There are one or two other things that concern me, but I think that's enough for tonight. I'm minded to follow Councillor Allnott's suggestion and request a deferment until we get that level of detail about how drainage is going to be done, whether car parking can and should be increased, whether bike spaces can and should be increased. I'm not sure it's ready for an acceptance or a refusal just yet. That's where I sit right now.
I respect that, Councillor Atherton. Is there anybody else who's got views? I'll take first of all, I think Councillor there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have grave concerns about this. I'm sort of doing the maths, calculating the size of the rooms. Potentially, you're going to have 17 individuals. I know you said we can sort of put a condition on, but then you have the enforcement problem, and we know, with the best will in the world, that takes a long time. So I'm thinking about people's lives here. So potentially it could be 17 individuals living it, which could mean 17 cars. You know, who knows what's in store for us? We just don't know. But also, if it's just 10 individuals, as it did say in the applicant's sort of initial application, it was 10 individuals, but it's not. It's 10 bedrooms, so that was a bit misleading. So the car parking is still insufficient. I know we say, oh, you can have 4 parking spaces and 10 bike racks. Not everybody can bike to Leicester. And I know we've got buses, but they don't always run at the right time to work in Leicester or even Nottingham. I think it's a recipe for disaster here. So I'll just listen to the rest of the debate, but I don't even think a deferment is going to solve these problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lansing. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. To return to previous issue, we don't have any guidance that's been admitted. How we can judge this without any guidance, God only knows. I don't know. However, apparently I didn't know this, that we employ a service called Dash. I don't know of this Dash service, who are our licensing people. We subcontract that out. Whether Dash have got some form of guidelines, I don't know. But then again, and that is on the Melt Mowbray website, if anyone wants to look at it. Having said all that, there's guidance out there, and I can only assume there's national guidance, because it all seems pretty coherent to me, and it all seems to line up very well across the piece. And I want to across the piece, Blaby have a 14-page, 16-page guidance note. Charnwood have it. We don't, and that's the problem. I feel we don't have it. We don't have the guidance to follow it. Certainly with regards to space standards. And I want to talk about space standards because it is entered into in the officer's report. If it wasn't in the officer's report, that I wouldn't do it. However, it is in there, and it does impact on, again, health. It does impact on the well-being of people. I'm not against it, HMOs. I don't have a problem with them, as long as they are fit for purpose and fit for people to live in, and that's what I'm interested in. And as a result of that, if you look at the way the guidance across the piece is written, the space, you cannot just isolate space standards of bedrooms. You can't just say, well, it's 6.5, everything else will follow. For instance, I would have asked the agent tonight if the room downstairs, which is a kitchen diner, apparently, whether that is a communal area, because the communal areas have to be taken into account. Because in the guidance that they have here, that if there's no communal area, then the bedroom sizes should be doubled or almost doubled of one person accommodation. I don't understand how it all fits together, and that's the problem. So I can't possibly judge this application because I don't understand it. And quite frankly, I don't think I've got the time to go through it and do the whole thing myself. I'm not employed to do that. I expect other people to do that on our behalf and bring it here.
Okay, Councillor Mason, then, as you say, there is national guidelines and that's what the minimum we're expected to follow. Is there anybody else? You've still got the speaker on. Councillor Aston.
That's got not finished, Chair, but if you...
Have you finished?
Yeah, no, if you like me to finish, you want to debate, you can have a debate. Do you want a debate?
Debate with me?
Yeah, no, I'll have a
No.
debate across the piece.
Okay, thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, I can't make a judgment because the space standards are not interrelated between the bedroom. The bedroom is the key issue, and that a living space for the people is then subject to the rigours of the communal spaces and the kitchen. The kitchen has to be a certain size. The kitchen has to, for 12 or for 10 people, the kitchen has to contain 2 cookers, 2 sinks. Now then, where are they? How can I judge that? I can't judge it. So therefore, just a moment.
Yep.
I fully support a deferment. In fact, I fully support, if you like, to turn this down blank and say, let's leave it alone, bring it back with a better understanding, and judge it again. Thank you, Chair.
Yep. Let's not try and get confused between obviously what is a planning matter and what is a licensing matter. You were talking when it comes to kitchens and all the rest of it, licensing matter, they will go in there and inspect and make certain that the standards are acceptable for the occupants. Anyhow, Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry. I just can't get something out of my head that Councillor Ornett had mentioned. Washing lines and stuff. You know, you've got 10 rooms there. Where's all the washing going to go? You know, and especially in the winter and stuff. It just be, well, that's all I wanted to put that into.
I believe you're next. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to come at it from 2 different viewpoints, really. One is that I see as a planning committee, we should be making sure that any buildings that are put together are fit for purpose for the people that are going to live there now and in the future. And we also look after the people that already live there. Following on from the points about there is no communal area in this building for 10 unrelated people. I'm going to stick with 10 rather than what may be multiples of it. I'll just go from the minimum and say it's 10 unrelated people using 1 large kitchen area and 1 small kitchen area, and they're meant to have that as a communal area and a cooking area and an eating area, and as has just been pointed out, a washing area. So they've got to have all that equipment plus storage for food, storage for the cold, fridges, etc., for up to 10 people or 10 individuals. And given the size of that, that means that they have no communal area, so that leads them to the outside, which sort of comes on to the second point, with not only with the parking, but with the comings and going of 10 individuals to a property like that on a street like that. Probably 24 hours, because comparing it to what it's been used at in the past, which was an office, which was obviously just during office hours, I would assume, there is a large difference there as well. So I can't help but see that it is an over-intensive development of the site, and it just does not produce the type of living arrangements that we should be encouraging within the borough. I absolutely agree with what Councillor Mason said, is we need properties for people to be able to use and to afford. But this is just an over-intensification, and I would be willing to put it as a rejection, or to follow a rejection for that.
Let's just a bit more debate. I think this is a good time because obviously we need to be clear on what is a planning matter and what is a licensing matter, and there is a grey area here that is forming, and I just want to bring Councillor Louise Parker in to just make it clear to the committee. Just let Louise have a go first about where the boundaries are.
Thank you, Chair. So obviously members are entitled to consider whether the scale and intensity of the occupation proposed is appropriate to the site. For that, you'll be looking for living conditions of future occupiers based on policy C9 and D1. What I do also want you to understand is the licensing regime that comes as part of this as well. So even if permission was granted this evening, nobody can occupy that building until it has passed the licensing and the HMO and everything under the Housing Act. So planning is only one part of actually the building getting up and running. So you can consider policy C9, you can consider D1, but the strongest not control, but the strongest power in terms of getting everything up to standard is licensing and the Housing Act. Planning is not the strongest tool here in terms of the actual use of the building.
Thank you, Louise. And I now believe it's Councillor Gordon who wishes to speak next.
Just carrying on from a point from Councillor Thwaites. Yes, about the congestion of people. And what worries me most is the fact that there's a school across the road, but because these people won't be working, I mean, hopefully some of them will have jobs, hopefully, but I'm thinking, what I'm thinking of is if they gather around areas along Asfordby Road.
Well, Councillor Gordon.
Oh, no, I just sort of say this.
You're
It's just that
actually
it could be
doing-
dangerous for children.
You're just going
they're
to
getting to
place.
school, going round them.
No, this is an area that I said was not planning. It's not to be discussed and not to go into it. The kind of residents that are there is not a part of the planning conditions. We cannot and will not get involved into that discussion, I'm afraid, Councillor Gordon. So if you could stop there, please.
Yeah. All I wanted to say really was that it's dangerous for children if they have
No,
to go around groups
No,
of people.
Yeah, both
That-
car parking. Yep. Okay, thank you. Councillor Atherton.
So am I allowed a second go? Because there's
Well,
two things
Councillor Atherton.
that I'd just like to query the officers on really. Policy IN3, infrastructure contributions and community infrastructure levy. Is that applicable? Because there's no mention of any such levy in the briefing document, but there's no mention of a minimum number of dwellings for it to be charged in the policy either. And albeit this is one external wall, it's 10 dwellings. So I'm just querying whether it should be levied. And I'd like to understand what broadband provision is being
That's not
provided
planning
under
matter.
policy IN4, please.
Well, that's not a planning matter as such. Anything you want to say about it, Louise, or? Could I, just as chairman looking around here, there seem at this point, and it's my judge as a chair to value this and assess this, there seems to be a growing feeling that we need questions answered before we move forward. And I'm therefore looking at, that's up to the committee though, but that deferment has been mentioned by at least 3 members. That's up to, I'll let Councillor Siggy Afton speak at this point.
Thank you, Chair. I think we become a bit stuck now. I think we have questions where it doesn't fall under planning, which is now licensing, but we also got a question where we haven't got the right information regarding waste and everything else. And I do feel we need more information for us to move forward. So I kind of want to second my husband with a referral to
Hasn't
until we get
proposed yet, I
more,
don't believe.
until we get more information, because at the moment I think we going backwards and forwards.
Yep.
And not really
Yeah.
getting anywhere, because we are stuck with what is licensing and what is planning.
Okay.
And
Could I just interpret that, Ziggy, if that's okay with me? We haven't had a proposal. You're proposing a deferment because of the lack of information on the boundaries. Okay, but that's acceptable to me as a chair. willing to actually second that, which is what's been mentioned, Ian. It's up to you.
Yeah, for me, a deferment would give an opportunity to answer all the questions, albeit my own belief is that you're wrong. You are wrong in your interpretation of the planning requirements for space. And I think Councillor Mason hit the nail on the head. Space is not just about bedroom size. It's about living space. And that must include kitchen space. It must include community space. It must include everything.
Yeah, I didn't say that that wasn't the case, but I know licensing are much more strict on that than planning is. However, I know that we've got a proposer and a seconder now for deferment. Is there anybody who wants to speak on the motion for deferment now?
Yeah, sorry. As when I've been in your position in the past, I don't see what coming back from a deferment would actually change. The major arguments on this application are the over intensification, i.e. the number, and that's dictated by the design. So I understand what you're saying about licensing, but if you allow a building to go through with 10 bedrooms, what are licensing going to say? So I don't agree with the deferment, because I don't think what would that change in the consideration of the event, in the fact that we're talking about the amenity of the residents and the effect of 10 individuals living in that area. We don't actually understand the impact on the cumulative assessment of going forward. So I can't understand what taking a deferment would actually bring, new information it would bring back that may swing the decision one way or the other.
Okay, well, obviously that's a decision for the committee. Councillor.
Just like to echo Councillor Thwaite's sort of words there. We still have the problem with the amenity of neighbours and neighbouring properties, and also the car parking issue, which I know Leicestershire Highway said it's okay, but we've heard this numerous times before, as you can imagine. I've been on planning for years and years and years. But the reality is you cannot park on around that sort of little quadrant. It's one way. Car parking is a premium, and people will have cars. They're not always going to be walking everywhere. And I don't think 4 parking spaces is adequate. I don't think, well, not everyone will have a bike. 10, we've got 10 bikes, etc. is what we're trying to have. But I just think it's the impact on the existing community, and with potential car parking. And I don't think bringing it back after looking at it all over again is going to change that, because they can't magic up.
Okay.
6 more
Thank
spaces.
you. Yep.
They can't do it.
I know.
So put the hook into what we can do with planning.
Okay.
Everything else is just noise around it.
I'll now go to Councillor Gordon.
Just very quickly, I would like to see that it's restricted to 10 people. If it goes through, that it is restricted to 10 people, no more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Right, Councillor Holmes, and then I think we should go to the vote unless there's anything urgent that needs, and then we can move on one way or the other.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, listening and hearing and chatting myself, I don't want to defer anymore. I feel that this should be refused. The main thing is, well, D1 for over intensification, but C9, which is the health of the people that are there. I think somebody said, what about the 2 flats? Ideal. But quite honestly, for all this number of people, for all the problems that I think this could make, I feel that I would like to refuse this application.
Let's go for the vote at the moment. I'll just get Louise Parker to, just before we vote on, hold on a second. You just want to say something?
Yeah, just going on the conversation since we put the proposal together, I think it's probably beneficial to withdraw the proposal to defer and let somebody else put a proposal to To deny.
Is the proposer happy for the withdrawal too? Okay. Okay, let's be clear. Obviously, we need to make a decision here, or the proposal to deference has been withdrawn, which is fine. We now have one or two councillors who've said they feel that it should be rejected. I need, or if whoever wants to come forward now, I need a proposal one way or t'other. Obviously, councillors, we will need, because, and I will let Louise speak before we go any further, we will need some form of writing for the rejection of this, not just words, and that will probably mean we've got to take some time out to get that right. Okay, just hold on and let Louise Parker speak at this point in time.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to help members with any wording that they need. Happy to help with the drafting of the refusal. I think before we move to that precise wording, I just want to clarify some of the points that have been raised. So additional information has been received from Highways when requested. I would professionally advise members to not consider parking. However, you are the determining committee here. There are also things that are completely within the licensing remit. So again, my focus to you members would be to concentrate on your development plan, look at the policies that are available to you and identify the harm. If you can tell me what the harm is and you can tell me what the policy is, I can therefore help you with the drafting.
Okay, so what we need obviously to do now is to put some wording together and try and assist the committee members. I'm assuming and interpreting what I've got 3 members and Councillor Elaine Holmes has already employed.
D1, which is over intensification of the site.
Yep, thank you.
That surely is a policy. D9, which is the health and well-being of residents.
Okay.
I think that is enough. And are you going to say? Yeah,
You
right.
can add to it if you want, Councillor.
Yeah, I'd like to actually add policy C1, which is the protection of residential amenity, which is the impact of number of people and the over intensification of the site. I'd just make one other point as well, which is following on from what Louisa just said, the parking. In all the comments that we've got in the paperwork for parking, it talks about safety. We're not talking about safety necessarily, we're talking about the impact on the local area, not safety.
Thank you. But you haven't mentioned parking in the rejection.
It becomes part of the
the
protection of residential amenity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you could just, I think probably it would be useful of clarification to Louise, please.
So Councillor Holmes, as you're proposing the motion, I just want to double check. So far I've got policy D1, over intensification of the site, policy C9, which is the health and well-being of residents, and policy, I heard C1, but I think it's D1, which is the protection of residential amenity, and then looking at parking grounds. I didn't understand where the exact details for the parking grounds were, and I also want to understand where the harm is. So over intensification, what's the harm caused by the amount of occupants of that dwelling? Policy C9, health and well-being of residents, what's the harm that's going to be caused by it? And I just need the specifics so I can help you better with the reasons.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker.
Come back.
I think quite honestly, my fellow councillor here said, how are you going to literally put your washing out? How are you going to, and then a councillor over there said 10 people in a dwelling. Do we know if the sewers could take it? Do we know if the drainage could take it? All these things, and for health. I know these are very irregular times that with this global warming, but my goodness, 10 people packed in one house at this time. You say there's nothing to do with the parking. I
Okay,
don't know where that came from.
okay, okay.
It's crazy. I
Could
mean,
we- yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
okay.
So-
You know, I've been round that street and round those streets.
Could we just,
The sustainable drainage would be EN 12.
so we've got a proposal. I was looking at councillor Thwaite, so were you seconding that proposal?
Yeah, I'm happy to second. Yeah.
So we've got a proposal, we've got a seconder. I will now check with the officers to see if we've got all the cases together to put it as a motion.
I'd just like clarification with regards to the impact of the parking and the reasons for refusal regarding parking, please.
I think that was
Yep,
me.
councillor
The
Thwaite.
parking was the fact that it, with 10 unrelated individuals living at one place, that 4 parking spaces would be insufficient, and the impact would be on the local area. So it wasn't on the, say, the LCC's safety angle. It was the fact that there will be an impact on the local area, because sort of D1 is, you know, the residential amenity isn't just about extensions or overlooking, etc. I mean, it's noise, disturbance, comings and goings, intensity of use,
Okay.
and parking activity. So it's from that point of view, it's not what you would say traditionally the parking argument. Is
No.
the fact that it's going to have an impact.
No, I'll just check obviously with the officers, see if we can get a motion together. So give us a few seconds.
So just ensuring that I'm getting the right understanding, the main focus of the impact that you're identifying is over-intensive development resulting in harm to residential amenity and poor living conditions for future occupiers. Is that the right area?
Okay, councillor Holmes, councillor Thwaite.
Or because, but it's this over intensification of the living area. Let's put it
Okay.
like that.
Yep.
And if you want to put something else in, a community area. Well, you know, we seem to be cramming people into a space and then not giving them any enjoyment of the house, are we? I don't know. That's not really a planning matter, though,
Okay.
is it?
Are we okay with where we're going? I think Louise has taken all that on board and will read out the substantive motion
Yeah.
once we're ready, which I think we nearly are.
Okay, so suggested wording is the proposed development by reason of the intensity of occupation proposed, the limited communal living facilities available to future occupiers, the restricted external amenity space and the relationship between the scale of occupation and facilities provided would result in an over-intensive form of development that would fail to provide satisfactory living conditions for future occupiers and would give rise to increased activity, disturbance and pressure on parking to the detriment of the amenities of neighbouring residents. The local planning authority therefore considers that the proposal would be contrary to policies C1, C9 and D1 of the Melton Local Plan, which seeks to protect residential amenity, secure healthy homes and ensure the development responds appropriately to its context.
Okay. Could I just go to the proposer and second? Are you okay with that statement? Is this both
Sorry,
of you?
Jim, can I just come? Yeah, and I think we're overstating the parking part of it. Because they could say the parking isn't the problem, but it's the impact of the parking. So I think it's focusing too much on the parking in that second part. But
We'll have a tweak.
yeah.
Hold on. a sec.
Because it is more the impact of 10 individuals.
Yep, okay. Councillor Mason, You're welcome.
Just throw something else into the pot, if I may. It's not, I've kept quiet for change. And it is local plan policy C3. If we look at the planning analysis at 9.2.7, it says the proposed floor area, when taking into account the 3 smaller bedrooms, etc., would accord with technical housing standards, which they do, and would therefore comply with the local policy plan C3, and would provide acceptable amenity for future residents. Now, that's not been proven.
Okay, but we can't put that in until one way or t'other.
Yeah, and so so it's difficult to prove that when we've not got the metrics to prove it. Do you understand?
Obviously, when we're putting in as the proposal is for rejection, we must be confident that the wording we're using, if it goes to appeal, can be held up.
Yeah, what Louise has very eloquently put down on paper.
Yeah.
Supports that it doesn't comply with policy C3. That's exactly the point I'm making. Because every identification and I'm not saying ruinous to health, because that's far too grandiose, but it doesn't contribute to the health of the residents, and therefore does conflict with local policy plan C3.
Is there anything else anybody wants to contribute, or are we happy to go to the vote? Is there anybody who needs it reading out again, or is everybody happy with the proposal, which is... Oh, you've got an amendment, right? The tweak has happened now, so let's just read it one more time so we can go to the vote, please.
I think this is more about actually giving you what I can come up with from the information you've provided, and then we can have whatever tweaks you want, because obviously this is your decision, members, so I want you to be comfortable and confident with the information that is going for the reason. So the proposed development, by reason of the intensity of occupation proposed, the limited communal living facilities available for future occupiers, the restricted level of external amenity space, and the relationship between the scale of occupation and facilities provided, would result in an over-intensive form of development that would fail to provide satisfactory living conditions for future occupiers. Furthermore, the local planning authority is not satisfied that the parking provision proposed is capable of adequately serving the level of occupation proposed. The resulting pressure for parking associated with the 10-bedroom house in multiple occupation would be likely to lead to increased activity, comings and goings, disturbance, and additional parking demands within the surrounding residential area, to the detriment of residential amenity and the character of the locality. The proposal is therefore contrary to policies C1, C3, C9 and D1 of the Melton Local Plan, which seeks to protect residential amenity, secure healthy and sustainable communities, provide healthy homes and ensure that development responds appropriately to its site and surroundings. And before we take a vote or anything else, can I just be 100% sure those are the policies that members want to be referred in the reason? C1, C3, C9 and D1.
Okay, thank you, Louise. I think I've got lots of nodding of heads, so I don't think there's anything else.
Perfect, thank you, Louise.
Okay, so is anybody? Councillor Lancy.
Yes, just quickly, we mentioned about the intensity or the parking element. I think we perhaps need to mention in there that the parking is restricted by permits as well, because it is a huge problem, and that's why we've had parking permits. That will then strengthen that car parking element. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gancy. Do we need to add that, or? Yep, hold on.
Yeah, no, there's two parts there. I would suggest not in terms of the permits, because that is beyond the control of ourselves. But if it's something you want add into the reason for refusal, I can tweak again. The one thing I would like to point out before a vote's taken, though, is policy C1 relates to housing allocations. Are members completely sure that you want policy C1 included in the reason for refusal?
Again, in my term, but isn't C1 about the protection of residential amenity?
Policy D1 is. Policy C1 refers to the allocation of sites for housing.
So, so let's go back to the proposer. Are you okay with what we've got as a wording? We'll check whether, so this C1 is a causing concern, Louise.
So I've just had confirmation for C1 to be removed and D1 to form part of the reason. I will draft again and come back in 1 second.
So if you could just take a break again and we will be back with the final wording. And hopefully that will be the definitive one, because obviously it's an important decision. We've got to get it right and correctly worded. Okay, we have now got the definitive wording. I hope there will be no more changes. Let's just go for it. Louise, over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. The proposed development, by reason of the intensity of occupation proposed, the limited communal living facilities available to future occupiers, the restricted level of external amenity space, and the relationship between the scale of occupation and facilities provided would result in an over-intensive form of development that would fail to provide satisfactory living conditions for future occupiers. Furthermore, the local planning authority is not satisfied that the parking provision proposed is capable of adequately serving the level of occupation proposed. The resulting pressure for parking associated with a 10-bedroom house in multiple occupation would be likely to lead to increased activity, comings and goings, disturbance and additional parking demands within the surrounding area, to the detriment of the amenities of neighbouring occupiers and the character of the locality. In reaching this conclusion, the local planning authority has had regard to the cumulative impacts arising from the proposed intensity of occupation, including pressure on shared facilities, limited opportunities for communal living, restricted external space, and the amenity space associated with the level of parking relative to the scale of occupation proposed. The proposal is therefore contrary to policies C3, C9 and D1 of the Melton Local Plan.
Thank you, Councillor. And is that proposer and second, you're happy with that wording? Okay, unless anybody wants to say anything, we'll now go to the vote, please. So could I have those in favour of refusal of the planning application on the terms you've just heard? Yep, okay. Thank you very much. Those against? As always, abstaining. That's my role on the chair. Thank you very much. Therefore, the planning application has been rejected on the terms read out by Councillor. Being there are no urgent items left for me to discuss with you, that is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for attendance.